What up, y'all? It's your boy Maine. It's your main event. I know the podcast is on hiatus. I'm so sorry if you guys have missed me during this time that I'm not here. I'm so sorry that I haven't been there for you guys. But new things are coming. I'm working on some upgrades, some changes, revamps to what I'm doing here, but I figured I'd like to talk to you guys and just give you guys something, even if I'm still on hiatus. Alright, even on break from the podcast, I'm still working on the podcast. So this is your boy Jermaine, or Maine, however you want to call me. It's Babylon 5 Podcast for now. And we'll see what happens in the future. But I just want to talk to you guys today, obviously, about UFC 291, which is headlined, as we all know, by Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje. Alright? Just Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje for the BMF title. UFC 291, Poirier Gaethje 2. I'll give you guys my prediction on the main event of UFC 291 at the end of this video. We're just going to talk about the main card here. Alright? Just for my mental health, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to talk about the main card here. Oh, okay, that's interesting. I'm opening up all these other tabs, and I'm not looking at OBS, but I'm imagining that you guys can't see those tabs. So I don't know why I thought it was okay to open up those files and just sit here with niggas not seeing anything at all. But we're going to talk about UFC 291. Let's talk about Michael Chiesa versus Kevin Holland. Alright, I think the natural way to think about this fight, and if we look at the odds here, 77% for Kevin Holland. I don't know if I looked at that a week ago if it would have been the same. Alright, I don't know if I looked at that 2 weeks ago it would have been the same. But if people say that Kevin Holland has any weakness, it's clearly been the grappling. And what do we know about Michael Chiesa? What is his game plan? He wants to grapple you. He doesn't want to stand and strike. He wants to grapple you, wrestle you, tire you out, and choke you the fuck out. Chiesa wants to grapple. So I think it's easy for a casual to look at this and be like, oh shit, Kevin Holland is gonna get dominated. Kevin Holland is 30 years old. Alright? Michael Chiesa is 35 years old. Michael Chiesa today, as the same day that I'm recording this, Michael Chiesa did an interview with Ariel Helwani where he's talking about his prospects to sit at the commentary desk. Alright? He's at 35 years old and he's smaller than Kevin Holland. He's not talking about his prospects to be the welterweight champion. I'm not saying he doesn't have the talent to be the welterweight champion. That's not what I'm personally trying to say. But what I am saying is, as he did this interview with Ariel Helwani, he did not speak about any aspirations to be UFC welterweight champion. He was talking about the next step. Alright? He's talking about the next step. And you might say, but he has the clear path to victory against Kevin Holland with his grappling. But you guys have to understand that when Kevin Holland was dominated in the grappling, alright, It was at 185. This fight between Michael Chiesa is going to be contested at 170. And with that being at 170, Kevin Holland, who spent a lot of his fights, majority of his fights in the UFC at 185, is coming down in weight to fight at 170. And Michael Chiesa, on the contrast, who spent majority of his fights fighting at 155 and is 6'1", coming up against the 30-year-old, 5-year younger, 6'3", 2 inches taller Kevin Holland, who's a great striker, knocked out Jacare from bottom on the ground. I think this is a bad fight for Michael Chiesa. I think this is a bad fight. When Kevin Holland comes to welterweight, he loses to Stephen Thompson. Stephen Thompson beat his fucking ass. Alright? He beat his ass. It was kind of hard to watch. But it is what it is. Stephen Thompson is a monster, 2-time titled challenger. And Stephen Thompson. Then he knocks out Santiago Ponzinibbio in his last fight in the third round. In the fight that I honestly thought he was losing up until that knockout. If we go back before the Stephen Thompson fight, Kevin Holland gets dominated by Khamzat Chimaev in the first round, Darce choke, submission. Before that, he finished Tim Means via Darce choke in the second round. Oh, how the turntables. Alright, he finishes Tim Means in June 18th, 2022. He finishes Tim Means via Darce choke. Come September 2022, 3 months later, he is finished via Darce choke, and everybody's saying he can't wrestle. Everybody's suddenly saying Kevin Holland can't grapple. He just did the same shit 3 months prior. He looked great against Cowboy Oliveira. I think Kevin Holland is going to look great in there against Michael Chiesa, who's smaller. Michael Chiesa is coming in here with a 75.5 inch reach. Kevin Holland coming in here with an 81 inch reach. He's 6'3", he's taller, he's much better striker, we already know that. And he's got decent jiu-jitsu. I think this fight is easily Kevin Holland. By finish, maybe. I see no reason why Kevin Holland doesn't finish Michael Chiesa. And after that, if we're talking main card, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this is on the main card. I don't want to come off like too much of a hater, alright? I don't want to come off like too much of a hater, but I want to just state that I've never really been on the Tony Ferguson bandwagon. Right before the Gaethje fight, I flipped and sided with Kukui. If you listen to the podcast before that fight, I picked Gaethje because I always thought Tony was the most overrated motherfucker I've ever seen out here, right? But in the lead up to that fight, I'm listening to his interviews and I'm thinking like, fuck. All these years I've thought this nigga was so overrated, right? All these years I've always thought he's so trash, but he keeps winning. He keeps winning, and I was like, am I really going to pick against this nigga again? And I went with Tony, and guess what? He got his fucking ass beat. And you know what's going to happen in this fight against the beautiful boxing of King, a.k.a. Bobby Green. I think Bobby Green's going to beat the shit out of Tony Ferguson, but who knows? Anything could happen in MMA. This is why I love this sport. I'm going with Bobby Green by domination, but for all we know, Tony Ferguson knocks this nigga out. For all we know. Then they got Stephen Thompson versus Michel Pereira. This is crazy. I was listening to the Morning Combat this morning, and they were mentioning how Stephen Thompson is 40 years old, and they were like, and Luke Thomas asked Brian Campbell, hey, how old, without looking at your notes, is Michel Pereira? And in my mind, I said like 34, right? That was my mindset, like 34. And he's like 29. That nigga is 29 years old. 28 and 11. Alright? This nigga's had 39 fights. He's 29 years old. 29 professional fights. And he's fighting Wonderboy, 2-time title challenger, who just finished Kevin Holland in his last fight, who is fighting right before him against Michael Chiesa. 2 fights before him against Michael Chiesa. He just forced a fucking corner stoppage. He beat the shit out of Kevin Holland. It was hard for me I had to tune the fight out. That's how much he was beating the shit out of Kevin Holland. It wasn't competitive. He was beating the shit out of Kevin Holland. And now we have the 29-year-old Michel Pereira, who loves to walk to the octagon and jump as high as he can and give 1,000 crotch chops on his way to gassing out by the end of the first round. We've seen that Michel Pereira, but lately we've seen a Michel Pereira that has been more calm, more patient, that is wrestling. And that Michel Pereira, if we see that Michel Pereira, however you pronounce it, we see that Michel Pereira against Wonderboy, then I think we could see a victory for Pereira. But if he stands there and wants to strike with Wonderboy, who just forced the stoppage of Kevin Holland's corner, I think we're going to have a Wonderboy W if he wishes to stand with him. Yeah, you're powerful, but that dude is probably one of the best strikers we've ever seen. If he chooses to stand with Wonderboy, it's not going to be a good night for him. He's flashy. He's flashy against lesser strikers. He's not flashy against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. So if he wants to find success, I don't think it's in being flashy. And if we're talking about the co-main event, which I thought was going to be made into a title fight, interim, or at least interim or some shit, I thought this was going to be a title fight. So unfortunately for the light heavyweight division, Jamal Hill had to relinquish his light heavyweight championship. And we have Jan Blachowicz, former light heavyweight champion, versus Alex Pereira, former middleweight champion. But they chose not to make this the title fight. I know I've heard reports that Yuri Prochazka is ready to fight pretty soon now, so probably the winner of this fight's Yuri Prochazka, or we'll see what happens for the belt. Because right now we currently have no champion in this division. I thought they were going to make this for the belt, but they chose not to. And this fight is very interesting. You look at these odds. You got currently Jan Blachowicz is the favorite, and he's the smaller fighter coming in here, right? And he's the older fighter. Jan Blachowicz is 40 years old. All right, Alex Pereira, 36. He's 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. Jan Blachowicz is 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. All right. Jan has a tendency to drop his hands. Alright? He drops, I think it might be the left hand, it might be the right. One of them. Watch the videos. Watch the Weasel's videos. Shout out to the Weasel MMA. He drops that hand and he's coming forward. He's pointing out Alex Pereira Pohatan's clear path to victory. And it was how Jan Blachowicz clearly just keeps dropping his arms. He'll throw a punch and then just drop, I think it's the right arm. He just drops it. He keeps it below the waist. And he's coming forward, leaving himself open for the hook. And you know who capitalized on that? Glover Teixeira. Alex Pereira's top MMA training partner. His best friend. Who capitalized on that. I feel like if we're looking at a Jan Blachowicz who beat Adesanya, was the first person to beat Adesanya in MMA, and people just like gloss over that win. No, that was a great win. He beat Israel Adesanya, and people just kind of brush it off. Like Jan didn't beat Israel Adesanya. He's my favorite fighter. Izzy is my favorite fighter. Jan beat that guy. Clearly. Like, there was no question like, oh, maybe the judges got it wrong. No, they did not. They got it right. Jan won that fight round to round. He looked great. And he doesn't get a lot of credit. But in this fight against Pereira, he leaves himself open for that hook. I'm going to stick with Jan. I want Jan to win this fight. As I'm saying, Izzy is my favorite fighter, so I still feel some type of way. So, my body won't let me pick Pereira. It won't let it happen. I gotta roll with Jan. I still feel some type of way about Pereira, but I'm saying he has a clear path to victory that he probably drilled Glover on, which led Glover Teixeira to being UFC champion. It's a clear path to victory. And we got the main event, Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje. A lot of people are hyped about this fight. I saw people debating, like, what are you going to watch? Dustin Poirier versus Justin Gaethje, or Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford in boxing. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, honestly, the boxing match means more than this rematch. I was even watching an interview with Gaethje, and they were like asking him questions like, what would you say to a child if they ask you what does the BMF title mean? And he was like, like, he has no answer because this is a bullshit belt. It means nothing. And he keeps saying, like, they keep asking him, like, well, would you like to defend this belt against this person? He's like, well, honestly, if I win this belt, I'm trying to fight the champion, right? Even if I win this belt and you think I'm a champion of some nonsense, me winning this belt to me means I get to fight for the real belt. And even with that said, this is a bullshit belt. Get your money. I hope you do. I just don't see any reason why Dustin Poirier doesn't not only repeat the result from last fight, but finish him sooner. I feel like Poirier is going to finish Gaethje sooner than he did in the first fight. He said, Dustin Poirier in an interview today said that Gaethje is known to be the most violent fighter, but Dustin Poirier, is the most violent fighter. And I agree with him there. You know, before I was trying to like run down this fight, like, what does Dustin have to worry about? What does Gaethje have to worry about? And then I watched the first fight. And it's like everything I was thinking about that they have to worry about right now was a factor in that first fight, where I felt like the leg kicks could be a big factor there. Guess what? Poirier walked through that shit. Poirier walked through that shit and got the shit done. I feel like a big problem, even at 34 years old for both gentlemen, they've been in so many wars. I say the one key factor here that we need to keep an eye on is their chins. We've seen them both get hurt. We've seen them both get hurt in there in previous fights. We saw Poirier said when Conor hit him, I believe it was in the first fight, he hit him at one point in the first fight and it really rocked him. And he was like, had Conor like pressed him, came at him with some punches, he probably would have lost that fight. But Conor didn't recognize it, didn't come forward. Like, that's the moments like this is crazy to me, because it's like at 34, with these both guys being in so many wars, like you go back and watch that Poirier Dan Hooker fight. Go back and watch that Poirier Michael Chandler fight. Go back and watch that Gaethje Chandler fight. Go back and watch that Gaethje Fiziev fight. These men have been in wars. This fight is set up to be insane. These men have been in wars, but I say the only thing that would possibly, like they say everyone has a puncher's chance, and the only puncher's chance I give Gaethje is if Poirier's chin is gone. Poirier has better offensive boxing, he has better defensive boxing, he does better at checking kicks. Yeah, the kicks were a problem in the first fight, but he was able to tough it out and get the job done and get the finish. I feel like Poirier might finish Justin Gaethje in the very first round. That's my pick. First round, rear naked choke, Dustin Poirier. That is my pick. I feel like they both have gotten better, all right, since we've seen these gentlemen fight the first time. They both gotten better, all right. They both gotten better, but I think Poirier's just got too many. He's got more ways to win, and I feel like he will. He's got more ways to win, and I feel like he will. Looking at these stats, it's like Gaethje does have the output. I don't know. I honestly don't see it other than a chin, right? Because they've both been through wars. That's the only path to victory that I personally see for Justin Gaethje, is if he cracks Dustin and the chin finally gives out on Gaethje, or gives out on Poirier. Otherwise, this fight is all Dustin Poirier and new BMF champion, whatever the fuck that means. But I just figured I just wanted to come in here and babble about this main card real quick. Yeah, I'm just hype about it. I'm still here. There's new things coming. I'm working on some changes. This video should look different than previous videos, but I'm working on the changes. I figured if I uploaded this, then you guys could see like, oh yeah, the changes are coming, obviously. But the changes are coming, and when they come, when I'm ready to be out here with you guys and do more content, I'll let you guys know what's good. But in the meantime, excited for UFC 291. I hope you guys are too. And I'll see you when I see you. I'll holla.